The Galactic Assembly Hall stretched across 3 kilometers of crystalline architecture. Thousands of species filled the chamber with their representatives. Tentacles, wings, floating gas beings, and creatures of pure energy occupied their designated seats. Each civilization had earned their place through centuries of diplomatic patience. Each had waited for the Assembly's blessing before expanding beyond their home systems. In the far corner of the massive hall sat an empty chair. It was small compared to the others. Simple metal and fabric, no decorations, no holographic nameplate. The seat designated for Earth had remained empty for 200 years. Ambassador Al of the Collective clicked his mandibles in satisfaction as he observed that vacant chair. His species had worked hard to keep humanity excluded. The young race from the spiral arm was too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be given a voice among civilized peoples. "The humans have sent another petition," announced the Assembly Speaker, a towering being of crystallized thought named. "They request membership for the 47th time." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Some species found humor in humanity's persistence. Others simply felt contempt. "Their request is," Al declared before anyone could consider the matter. "As it has always been, humanity has not demonstrated the required patience. They have not waited the mandatory 5,000 years of observation. They expand too quickly. They breed too fast. They think too dangerously." The Assembly voted without debate. 9,000 species raised their appendages, tentacles, and energy signatures in agreement. Earth's petition was rejected once more. On Earth, President Maria received the news in her underground office. She was the 7th human leader to face this rejection. Her predecessors had tried diplomacy. They had tried gifts. They had tried waiting quietly. None of it had worked. Maria turned to her advisors. General Thomas Park sat with his arms crossed. Doctor adjusted her glasses nervously. Admiral James Wright studied the star charts on the wall. "They said no again," Maria stated simply. "They will always say no," General Park replied. "They have made sure of that. They control the Assembly's decisions on new membership. They fear what we might become." Doctor spoke up carefully. "We could wait, follow their rules. In 5,000 years, perhaps they would accept us." Admiral Wright shook his head. "In 5,000 years, they will find another reason to exclude us. They do not want partners. They want subjects, species that obey, species that ask permission before breathing." Maria stood and walked to the window. Outside, the reconstructed cities of Earth gleamed in the afternoon sun. Humanity had survived climate disasters, nuclear near misses, and 3 alien incursions that the Assembly had done nothing to prevent. Each time, humans had rebuilt. Each time, they had grown stronger. "How many colony ships do we have ready?" Maria asked. General Park checked his tablet. 47. Each can carry 100,000 colonists. They are waiting in orbit around Mars. "And the new drive systems?" Doctor answered this time. "The quantum fold engines are operational. We cracked the technology 3 years ago. We can reach any point in the galaxy within standard months. The Assembly species use slower methods. They believe quick travel is impossible." Maria smiled. The Assembly had refused to share their technology with humanity, so humans had invented their own. It turned out to be better. "Launch the ships," Maria ordered. "Send them to every unclaimed system within 500 light-years. Establish colonies, build stations, create trading posts. Do not ask anyone for permission." Admiral Wright raised an eyebrow. "The Assembly will not be pleased." "The Assembly has made clear that our pleasure does not concern them," Maria replied. "We will return the sentiment." The colony ships launched within the week. They scattered across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. Humans established their first major colony on a world they named New Hope. Within a year, they had built cities. Within 5 years, they had constructed shipyards. Within a decade, they had created a network of 30 thriving worlds. The assembly watched with growing alarm. Ambassador Al demanded an emergency session. He stood before the thousands of species with fury in his compound eyes. "The humans have violated galactic law," he declared. "They have colonized without permission. They have expanded without approval. They have ignored our authority completely." The speaker considered this carefully. What law have they broken? Humanity is not a member of the assembly. Our laws do not apply to non-members. This created chaos in the chamber. Species argued among themselves. The assembly had always assumed that outsiders would desperately seek membership. No one had considered that a species might simply ignore them entirely. "We must stop them," Al insisted. "Send the combined fleet, destroy their colonies, push them back to their single world." The vote was close. 5,000 species supported military action. 4,000 opposed it. The motion passed. The combined fleet assembled near the human colony of New Haven. 3,000 warships from 40 different species gathered to teach humanity a lesson about respect and patience. Admiral Wright had anticipated this response. He had positioned the human defense fleet nearby. 200 ships faced the massive alien armada. The alien commander, an admiral named, opened communications. "Humans, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Abandon your colonies. Return to Earth. Wait for assembly approval before leaving your system again. You have 1 hour to comply." Admiral Wright appeared on the screen. He was calm, almost amused. "No," he said simply. "No," repeated in confusion. No species had ever refused a combined fleet demand. "You have 200 ships. We have 3,000. You cannot win this battle." "You are correct," Admiral Wright agreed. "We cannot win this battle, but you cannot afford to fight it." Before could respond, alarms sounded across every ship in the combined fleet. Sensors detected human vessels appearing throughout assembly space, not warships, cargo vessels. Each one carried a simple message beacon. The message played on every frequency. President Marius' voice reached every corner of the galaxy. "To all species of the Galactic Assembly, humanity comes in peace. We seek trade, not war. We offer technology, medicine, art, and friendship. We ask nothing except to be treated as equals. Any species that wishes to deal with humanity directly is welcome to contact our nearest colony. We do not require assembly permission to talk to our neighbors. Neither do you." The effect was immediate. Thousands of smaller species had long been dominated by powerful assembly members. They had been forced to follow rules that benefited the strong and punished the weak. Now humanity offered something different: direct contact, fair trade, no middlemen, no assembly approval required. Within hours, the combined fleet began receiving frantic messages from their home governments. Trading agreements with humans were being signed across the galaxy. Smaller species were declaring that they would defend human colonies if necessary. The coalition was falling apart. Admiral watched his advantage dissolve. If he attacked now, he would win the battle. But his government would face economic ruin. Human trade goods were already flowing. Human technology was being shared freely. Human culture was spreading like wildfire among species that had been ignored for. "This is illegal," transmitted furiously. "You are undermining the Assembly's authority." "We are exercising our freedom," Admiral Wright replied. "Something the Assembly forgot existed. We did not ask for your seat in your chamber. We did not ask for your approval. We simply did what free people do. We lived. We grew. We made friends. If your authority cannot survive species simply talking to each other, perhaps your authority was never real." The combined fleet without firing a shot. The following years transformed the galaxy. Humanity established the Free Trade Coalition. Any species could join. There were no waiting periods, no observation requirements, no tests of worthiness. If a civilization wanted to trade, they were welcome. If they wanted to share knowledge, doors were open. If they wanted friendship, hands were extended. The assembly watched its power crumble, species left in waves. They had stayed because they believed they had no choice. Humanity showed them that choice always existed. It simply required courage. Ambassador Al made one final attempt to save the old order. He traveled to Earth personally. He stood before President with all the dignity his failing institution could muster. "Your seat in the assembly remains open," he offered. "Join us. Become legitimate. Your voice would be heard among the great powers." Maria studied the ancient alien. She felt no hatred, only a distant pity. "Ambassador, you offered that seat under conditions designed to ensure we would never fill it. You wanted us to beg, to wait, to prove ourselves worthy of being treated as thinking beings. We chose a different path. We built our own table. We invited everyone who wanted to sit. Your empty seat can remain empty forever. We have no use for it." Al left Earth for the last time. He returned to an assembly that grew smaller each year. Decades passed. The Free Trade Coalition grew to include 12,000 species. They cooperated on exploration, science, art, and defense. Conflicts were resolved through negotiation and mutual respect. The old ways of dominance and submission faded into history. Historians would later debate why humanity succeeded where others had failed. Some said it was human stubbornness. Others credited their technology. A few pointed to their military readiness. But the observers understood the deeper truth. Humanity succeeded because they refused to accept that they needed permission to exist. They refused to believe that their worth required validation from others. They refused to wait for acceptance that would never come. Earth's seat in the Galactic Assembly remained empty. It stood as a monument to a simple truth that humanity had taught the galaxy. Freedom is not given, it is taken. Respect is not earned through submission, it is claimed through action. And the only permission anyone truly needs is the permission they give themselves. Humanity never asked for a seat at the table. They built their own table. And in the end, nearly everyone in the galaxy preferred to sit there instead. The empty chair in the assembly hall was eventually removed. Nobody remembered why it had been placed there in the first place. Nobody cared. Somewhere among the stars, human children played on worlds their ancestors had claimed without permission. They learned languages from alien friends who had come seeking partnership rather than dominance. They grew up knowing that the galaxy was vast enough for everyone. And in quiet moments, their parents would tell them the old story. How once, long ago, Earth had been refused a place among the stars. How their ancestors had simply smiled at that refusal. How they had walked past the locked door and found their own way forward. The story always ended the same way. They said no, so we said yes to ourselves, and that made all the difference.